Hi, I'm Dave DeWitt. A few years ago, I wrote a book called An Evaluation of the Atheistic Religion known as Evolution. I also wrote a brief overview of that book, and I want to cover that overview in 3 podcasts. This is the second of those podcasts. I want to start today by showing that DNA evidence opposes evolution. Although the estimates vary somewhat, it seems that our adult bodies are made up of nearly 100 trillion cells. Each cell contains all of an organism's genetic instructions stored in a ribbon-like structure known as DNA. Each set of DNA, one per cell, contains all of our genetic information. However, each cell uses only the instructions from part of the DNA. Brain cells use the DNA that tells the brain what to become or do, and the liver uses the DNA that tells the liver what to become or do, and so forth. If you string our DNA together, it would be about 6 feet, a little over 2 meters long. We have one of these strands of DNA at conception, and about 100 trillion of them as an adult. Evolutionists estimate that there have been about 100 billion people who have lived on the earth. If you took all of their DNA, in other words, all of the genetic code for everyone who's ever lived, and piled it together on a scale, it would weigh 0.64 grams, about the weight of 2 aspirin. Remember, each cell has about 6 feet, a little over 2 meters, of DNA. If you string the entire DNA of your adult body together, it would equal 132 billion miles, or 212 billion kilometers. Now, the moon's about 240,000 miles, 386,000 kilometers from the Earth. That means it would go to the moon 552,000 times. To put it another way, if you drove a car 60 miles, 100 kilometers an hour, for a lifetime of 70 years, it would take you 3,500 lifetimes to drive the length of your body's DNA. Now, what are the odds that our DNA came about by chance? There are 4 amino acids in DNA. They're usually labeled A, G, T, and C, the initials of their names. And all G's must be matched across with C's, and all T's must be across from A's in the ribbon. There is a 1 in 4 chance that the first amino acid will be in the right spot. But the same is true for the matching one. So there's 4 times 4, or 1 in 16 chance that the first base pair will line up correctly by chance. The odds of 2 base pairs lining up correctly by chance would be 16 times 16, or 1 in 256. The odds for matching correctly 5 pair of amino acids is 1 in 16,177,216. You know how many there are in 1 cell of DNA? 3 billion. There are 6 billion amino acids, which make up 3 billion matched up base pairs, and the odds for just 5 of them is over 16 million to 1. The next question I want to ask is, where'd all the people go? The population growth is exponential, constant, and follows a set formula. When figured back into the past, the formula gives us the world population approximately 4,500 years since the Genesis flood. The universe today says, while our ancestors have been around for about 6 million years, the modern form of humans only evolved about 200,000 years ago. Lambert Dolphin reported the following, quote, "The above formula readily shows the absurdity of evolutionary timescales for mankind in 1 million years. The present population of the world would be," and he has the formula P equals 3.7 times 10 to the 2091 persons. In contrast, the total number of electrons in the universe is only 10 to the 90. Assuming that man has been on Earth for 1 million years or so, as the evolutionists admittedly insist, we conclude that the entire universe would now be full of bodies of dead people. The total surface area of the Earth is about 5 times 10 to the 14 square meters. If we allowed every man, woman, child a square meter and filled all the land mass with the people of the Earth, it would hold no more than 10 to the 14 power per persons. This is in contrast with the evolutionist population of 3.7 times 10 to the 2091. Even the 200,000 years the evolutionists claim humans like us have been on Earth would produce an absurdly huge population beyond the current estimate of numbers of atoms in the universe. We need to talk a little bit about radiocarbon dating. I'm not going to go through the process of all of how it works. That would take too long for the purpose of this podcast, but all living things take in carbon-14 continually, and it continually decays into nitrogen. But when a living thing dies, it stops taking it in. So if we know, one, the amount of carbon-14 a living thing has when it dies, and we know, number two, the rate of decay is constant, we can theoretically know how long it's been dead. Radiocarbon dating depends on equilibrium of carbon-14. It means there has to be, first of all, a consistent amount of carbon-14 all through the ages of time in living things when they die, and B, second, a constant rate of decay over that time. Neither are the case. This leads to 4 inaccuracies in carbon-14 dating. One, the founder of the carbon-14 dating process, Dr. Willard Libby, a long-age evolutionist, assumed equilibrium had been established in the past. In other words, the same amount of carbon-14 coming in and decaying. But today there are measurably more coming in than going out. Specific production rate of carbon-14 is known to be 18.8 atoms per gram of total carbon per minute. The specific decay rate is known to be only 16.1 disintegrations per gram per minute. So the rate of decay is not constant. 2, if equilibrium was established in the past, as Dr. Libby supposed, but we know there's more carbon-14 now, then the amount of carbon-14 was less in the past. So those formerly living things in the past would not be as old as the equipment would indicate. Number 3, the Earth's magnetic field is deteriorating. For example, we know that the magnetic field at the beginning of this century was about 10% weaker than it was in 1845 when it was first measured. Therefore, we know it was much stronger in the past. A stronger magnetic field would yield out more cosmic bombardment, so less carbon-14 would be made in the atmosphere. Means that past living things would absorb less carbon-14. So radiocarbon dating would indicate that their remains are much older than they actually are. And number 4, whatever caused people to live 900 years before the Genesis flood shielded them from something causing aging, which decreased rapidly after the flood. Whatever did that also likely shielded out the bombardment that caused carbon-14. So the radiocarbon process would make it appear that they died much longer ago than they actually did. It's therefore likely the era of radiocarbon dating is exponential as you move into the past. Dr. Gerard Aartsma concluded, at the present time, it appears that the conventional radiocarbon dating technique is on relatively firm ground for dates which fall within the past 3,000 years. For periods of time prior to this, there are legitimate reasons to question the validity of the conventional results and seek for alternative interpretations. Radiocarbon dating of radiometric dating is the dating done of rocks, which begins with evolutionary assumptions, but I've not considered it here because dating rocks is not directly connected to evolution. Next, I want to talk about dinosaurs. First, we need to understand that dinosaur fossils have never been dated to be millions of years old by any scientific testing, and most people think they have. The evolution religion says most dinosaurs lived on Earth about 66 million years ago, but no fossil, dinosaur or otherwise, has ever been dated to be millions of years old by any scientific dating process. Fossils dated are assigned by one of two methods. One, they're dated by the rock layer they're found in, and the age of the rock layer has been determined by the theory of evolution, which evolutionists called relative geological time. Or, number 2, they're dated simply by estimating where the fossil fits in the evolutionary scheme of things, which the evolutionists call the absolute geologic time, which is also determined by the theory of evolution. Notice what's called absolute means estimating the age of a dinosaur fossil. Both methods are based completely on evolution religion. No dating procedure was ever performed on a fossil. Where did the dinosaurs come from? Genesis 1:21, God created the great sea monsters. Genesis 1:25, God made the beasts of the field. Job 40:15 and 18, behold now Behemoth, which I made as well as you, he eats grass like an ox. Behold now his strength in his loins and the power in his muscles of his belly. He bends his tail like a satyr. Job 41:1 through 8. Can you draw out the Leviathan with a fish hook? Lay your hands on him. Remember the battle. You'll not do it again. Now the origin of life and evolution. Origin destroys organic compounds. Amino acids that make up biological molecules are destroyed when they come into contact with oxygen, making it impossible for life to evolve in an atmosphere containing oxygen. So here's an interesting problem for the evolution religion. Living things that require oxygen to stay alive are made up of organic material, which is destroyed by oxygen. To solve this problem, evolutionists suppose the Earth's atmosphere 3.8 billion years ago had no oxygen. First of all, we need to notice that this is not based on any observation, such as atmosphere. anywhere on the earth ever. This is only a religious blind faith assumption. Our planet has only and always been observed having a 21% oxygen atmosphere, with no evidence that it is increasing from something that was less than, or in their case, they would need 0 in the past. There's another problem. The Earth is surrounded by a layer of ozone, and ozone's made of oxygen. The ozone layer is essentially because it protects the Earth from the ultraviolet rays of the sun. Without it, any biological molecules would be destroyed by the sun's ultraviolet radiation. An oxygen-free atmosphere would not have an ozone layer, and the sun's ultraviolet rays would destroy any organic material that evolved. This presents an unresolvable conflict for the evolution religion. If there was oxygen, life could not evolve. If there was no oxygen, life could not evolve. Any thinking, non-religious person is forced to ask, did this oxygen-reducing accident Earth idea come from an observation of nature? Is there any actual evidence for the accident-free, oxygen-free atmosphere billions of years ago, or is this based on the religious assumption that evolution has to be true? The information code in DNA cannot come from chance mechanical processes. Remember, every cell in our body, all 100 trillion of them as an adult, has the complete DNA code, but each functions only reads the code for its own function. Nose cells read nose instructions, liver cells read liver instructions, so forth. But where did all those instructions come from? The evolution religion says all that vast amount of specific information came about mechanically from mechanical processes. In other words, a random selection of events caused information to generate by itself. The other random sequence of events caused each cell to return to read the right part of the code. Well, the problem is, the reality is, the 100% observation is, mechanical processes and random sequences of events never produce information, ever. Information always comes from an intelligent source. A few years ago, I wrote a book called Evolution of the Atheistic Religion. For this kind of a detailed one I went through here today, and you can get a lot more of the references from that book. Thanks for listening. The material I've been using is available with footnotes and references under Evolution in our website, relationalconcepts.org.